Hi, welcome to the 36th Legislative District Democrats. We have with us Chris Roberts for King County Assessor. Hi, Chris. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Chris Roberts. I'm chair of the 32nd District Democrats. This is where you want me to give my intro, right? In 2 minutes?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm chair of the 32nd District Democrats, and I'm a proud member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. For the last 17 years, I've been on the Shoreline City Council, where we've been a leader in adopting progressive policies, building housing, standing up for the most vulnerable, and championing the diversity of our community. I believe that we need trusted, proven leaders in all elected offices. Today, I'm running for assessor to prioritize equity, fairness, and transparency. Specifically, we need to maintain the excellence of the department, ensure properties are appraised fairly and uniform, to prioritize outreach to all communities across the county to help people stay in their homes. I've heard from people who've waited on the phone for hours, people who've waited 12, 18 months to know if their property tax exemption was approved. That is unacceptable, and we must do better. I'm proud to be endorsed for assessor by Executive Zahalai, council members Teresa Mosqueda and Rod Nabowski, council member Alexis Mercedes Rink, former assessor Lloyd Hora, and over 100 elected officials across King County. Again, I'm Chris Roberts, and I would appreciate your support.
Thank you, Chris. I think Anita has our first question for you.
Okay, first question is about your role. Please explain what the primary responsibilities of King County Assessor Office are, and specifically, what is the job of the assessor?
Sure. It is a very complicated, I'm not seeing the timer, by the way.
It just started.
Okay.
Do you need a pin?
Yeah, I think that would be nice.
If you go
I'm
up
on my, I'm on my phone, so that's
oh, that
could
might
be
be
why.
why. I think if you go to the what is it? If the view and then you go
Okay, there
to
we go.
Amanda's
Okay,
timer, you got
I
it?
can see it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the role of the assessor is a couple things. First and most fundamentally, it is to appraise every property in King County every year for the purposes of assessment. So every 6 years, someone from the department is going to go and visually inspect the property. This is both for commercial and for residential properties. And so, and that is the primary job of the assessor. The second job of the department is for nearly every single property tax exemption program, it's the Department of Assessments that is the one who administers the program, who processes applications, and to applies those exemptions to someone's tax bill. The other, I mean, then there's a few other sort of minor things it does, but those are the two big things that the department does. I'm happy to go into any more detail on that.
Oh, that is fine. Thank you. Our second question for you is about partnerships. What relationships with other elected officials, departments, or organizations are important to the effectiveness of the assessor's office? And specifically, how will you partner with and support our legislature as as the state works to shift the tax structure?
Right. So the assessor works closely with the county treasurer, and that's between those two departments. The treasurer is going to send out the bills, and the assessor is the one who tells the treasurer how much things are, properties are appraised at. So in terms of the mass appraisal system that the county is going through, the two big partners and players in that are the Department of Assessments and the treasurer, the county treasurer. The county also, the Department of Assessments also works closely with the Board of Equalization. And the King County auditor found several years ago that the assessor needs to do a much better job of helping people navigate through the appeals process and work closely with the Board of Equalization. The fact that it takes years for people to get property tax appeals heard through the Board of Equalization is a problem, and we need to deal with that as well as outreach. In terms of general partnerships, I believe the department needs to be partners with senior centers, with labor unions, with civic organizations to really help promote hospitals, to really promote the property tax exemption programs, and really develop a strong outreach program so that people not only understand our tax system, but also to help people navigate through the property tax exemption processes. The other thing, the other part of it is a partnership with the legislature. I'm proud to be endorsed by, well, I'll pin that for a second. But the assessor also works closely with the Attorney General's office and the state treasurer. The state treasurer provides guidance to assessors across the state, and the Attorney General's office provides training for all Department of Assessment and assessors and across the state. So, I mean, there's partnerships there with both of those offices, and I'm proud to be endorsed by many legislators, and will use my office to advocate for good public policy, including a property tax exemption, a homestead exemption.
Awesome. And I'm guessing by that finish, you can actually see the timer now.
I can actually see the timer, yes.
Perfect. All right. Howard has the third question for you.
Hi. In regards to equity, the rising property taxes continue to be a top concern for business, renters, property owners alike. What are the ways the assessor's office could structure property taxes more equitably? For example, golf courses occupy a significant amount of land in King County, but benefit a very small percentage of people. Are there other types of property that could use the same type of reevaluation?
I would say yes. I think that in terms of golf courses, there was a process done a couple of years ago in a report from the department about how they're evaluating golf courses in King County. And I agree with that process, that there should be an ongoing review of certain types of properties to make sure that we are assessing them fairly and uniformly. And I think that there's value in creating, similar to what the Department of Election has, where they have a citizen oversight committee over the election department. I think a similar type of committee could work and should work for the Department of Assessments to actually help direct and say, hey, these are classifications of properties that we should take a look at. We're not sure that they are being assessed fairly and uniformly. And so having that kind of oversight on the assessor and the department, I think would be very helpful and make sure that things are very transparent. Did I get all of that question answered?
If you wanted to answer, well, yeah, kind of. Did you talked enough about how the assessor's office could structure the property taxes more equitably?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing that the assessor office does is make sure that everything is done fairly, uniformly, and transparent. That's until we get direction or new direction from the state, no one should be able to pay a penny more in property taxes than they should. And there are professional ways, and the department has been very excellent in the way of how they have appraised properties. And it's an award-winning department, and we need to keep these standards up.
Thank you. And you are not obligated to use every second of your
It's
time.
okay.
We can put it toward follow-ups if that's what works better. Ricky has number 4 for you.
Hi, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing the next King County assessor, and what is your plan to tackle it?
Well, the two biggest challenges I see are, one, restoring integrity to the office. And then second is we need to develop a strong outreach plan. There are too many people, and I will say that there are several of my colleagues across the region who really don't quite understand how property taxes work in the state. And I think it's incumbent on the assessor to be the person who works to educate people about how our property tax system works, and to really go out into the community and make sure people who are eligible for our property tax exemption program, people who know people who might be eligible for our property tax exemption programs, to apply for these programs. It is incumbent to be really good and really strong on outreach. The assessor can't just sit back in downtown Seattle and just say, this is what we're doing. We need to be in the community. And in fact, the King County auditor told the assessor a couple of years ago that you have to actually go and physically go to every senior center in the county, which is fine, but that's, I think, a really low standard. I mean, I think we really do need to be going to union halls, working in civic organizations, working with social workers, with people who are the United Way and people who are their work in filing taxes, helping them understand that if someone is qualified, is using their service, they should be also knowledgeable about the property tax exemption program to help people, because we need to help people stay in their homes. We need to, seniors and senior women are the largest, the greatest growing, largest, the demographic that's seeing the most, experiencing the most rise in percentage rise in homelessness. And that we have these programs and we should apply them. If I was to take a look at my house, it would be about a 56% reduction in my property tax. If I were to qualify, I don't, but if I were to qualify, it'd be about a 56% savings. That's huge.
Thank you. We have time for some follow-up questions, and I have plenty, but I'm going to let some of the others go first. Howard?
Yeah, so clarification about the question on equitable property taxes. So if I understand what you said, like for instance with golf courses, your role is to have objective measures for the value of a property, and then you have
Right.
to apply the tax rates. So if someone was wanting golf courses to pay more, that's something that's beyond your purview. Did I get that right?
Well, we have, um, did, there was a report that was issued a couple of years ago by the department about golf courses specifically. And so what it came up with, here are here are existing sales of golf courses. Here are sales of golf courses that have restrictions on them. Here are golf courses without restrictions on them. And then they said, look, there is a difference between golf, the value of, I mean, what is nice about the appraisals is that there is some truth to, you look at comparable sales. And so if there are comparable sales of specific types of golf courses with certain restrictions, you can compare it to golf courses with certain types of restrictions. And so that's what you have to do with golf courses, but also with other types of properties as well. And so we have the authority to make sure that our assumptions are correct. And I think there's a lot of truth that we have to do to make sure that our assumptions and values are correct in terms of how to make sure we get to the right value and the precise value.
I'm sorry, if I could just follow up again, just clarification here. So it's not within your office's purview to say golf courses place a burden for less benefit than most other lands, therefore we think that's
No,
beyond your purview. Okay.
that's beyond my purview. That's beyond the purview. Yes.
Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit? You mentioned like a citizens oversight committee, and I'm curious in your mind how that would look, and also if and how that would overlap with the other partnerships that you mentioned.
I think ultimately, I think the more transparency that you have, the better. So when it comes to, I mean, this was a sort of a brainchild of a conversation I had with a few weeks ago of where we can actually sort of just provide more transparency to how things are. I mean, part of it goes back to the questions I've seen about golf courses of how did the department decide to do a report on the golf courses? Where did that come from? And so having a more transparent process where this committee can go and say, hey, look, I'm not sure how you're assessing these types of properties. How are you taking a look at farmland? What are you thinking about when you're determining whether something is the best use, that those are things that I think this committee could do to sort of really help make sure that this process is very transparent to everyone.
Looks like we have a question from Amanda.
Yeah, you mentioned going to senior centers and union organizations as part of communicating and getting out there. Right now, the main contact that most residents have with the assessor's department is that famous postcard, right?
Mhm.
Do you see that as an adequate communication mechanism? Are you looking at prioritizing changing that or updating that? I know there's an email version as well. What do you think about that, and how does that fit into your plan to communicate the job of the assessor?
Well, if I had the right budget, we'd actually send a letter out to everyone, because I don't know about you, but my eyes are getting worse as I age. And so to try to read that postcard and see that, oh, you can appeal, or you can, there are property tax exemptions that you may be eligible for. You have to, they're not highlighted. There's no way you can't, it's very hard to read that postcard. And I would say my eyes are decent. And so I think we have to do better. I mean, Snohomish County sends a full letter to everyone instead of a postcard. So, I mean, there are other ways that counties are doing to really help people understand what their property taxes are, and how they can appeal, and how they can apply for exemptions. I think there's also targeted outreach that the department can do. If we know that a census block has a large number of seniors, we can send another follow-up letter or additional letters to these targeted areas to say, hey, you might be eligible for these programs.
Thank you. I have one. Chris, I'm guessing that along this path, you have discovered that not a lot of people know a whole lot about the assessor's office. And you did a nice job describing, some of the responsibilities and issues. And I'm wondering if there's been something that you found out that was a little surprising, or an additional thing that you're guessing some of us probably don't know that you might want to share with us.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I've learned, I mean, I think that the assessor has done I really like the housing affordability dashboard that the department has. I think I know that other organizations have similar dashboards, but I mean, then have it very nicely targeted to King County, which is nice. I think the biggest surprise that I've found is how much commercial properties and commercial valuations have changed. I've certainly read about this in the news, but to actually look and use the parcel viewer to take a look at some of the properties in downtown Seattle and see how much their uh, assessments have changed over the last even 5 years is really shocking. I mean, you've seen some of these towers downtown um, now appraised 50% lower than they were just 6 years ago. It's really shocking of how much of a change has happened in shifting from commercial to residential in terms of how much people pay.
And I guess that is partially due to what has caused the shift in my little postcard that I get every year. Would you like to give us a 90-second close?
Sure, I'm very happy with the way that my campaign's running. I think that I've been really proud to be supported by, in just my time on the council, to be elected to the board of the National League of Cities, to be on the board of the Sound Cities organization. So my colleagues really trust me and really think I've done a good job, and I think they've rewarded me with that. I think that on the Shoreline Council, we've done a really good job addressing some of the big issues that we as Democrats care about, from addressing their housing crisis to protecting our most vulnerable. Those are things I'm very passionate about and care about, and I'm going to bring that passion, that dedication to social justice that forms the core of my identity. I'm going to bring that to the Department of Assessments. And again, I think that as I started off, I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And I look around. When I first was elected, I didn't see many natives who were serving in elected office. And if we look at King County, I have not found any tribal member who served on the King County Council or as a in an executive position of King County. And I think this is a historic campaign and an opportunity to elect a good Democrat, someone who has a proven record to this office.
Thank you so much for coming in today, Chris. This is Chris Roberts for King County Assessor, and we really appreciate you coming in to talk to us here at the 36th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.